to Canes just as a crew member to start, became a shift manager pretty fast. I've seen some Canes there that do 12 or 13 million.
That's Eliot McDonald. After rising to shift manager at Raising Cane's, he became the director of operations at Lane's Chicken Fingers before founding his own concept, the Coop.
One day I just woke up and I said, screw this, I'm starting my own brand.
In this conversation, Eliot breaks down why Raising Cane's is so successful and everything there is to know about the business of chicken tenders.
The prep is pretty extensive for just being chicken. 90% of their locations are probably the best run operations in QSR, period. I'm a numbers guy. I'm the spreadsheet guy, all that. I just happen to also know how to drop chicken. It's going to do 1.2 to 1.3 million the first year. It'll net 250-ish off that.
This episode is presented by CloudKitchens. More on them later. I know you started at Slim Chickens on a bet, so can you walk me through what happened there?
Yeah, so this is back in 2017. We had, me and a buddy would do a decent-sized bet every year, and this time it was his turn to offer it to me. So the bet was a pretty significant amount that I couldn't hold a job for 6 months. Do the math on it. It worked out where, I would be making, even if I just found a job at $10 an hour, let's say, I'd be making over $30 an hour for that 6 months. I was, oh, well, that works. So I started at Slim's. I actually really liked it. So then I went to, the number one chicken place, and that was Cane's. That's what got me just into the chicken finger business.
Yeah, and how did you go from Slim's to Cane's? And I think you went from just a crew shift role, right, to a manager role at Cane's.
Correct. So, like I said, I really liked it. I liked the operation aspect of it. So when I went to Cane's, Slim's, it just wasn't. I'm not gonna say it wasn't right. It just, Cane's was the big dog. So I just wanted to, I wanted to be with the company. So I went to Cane's just as a crew member to start, became a shift manager pretty fast, actually moved to the Northwest Arkansas market with Cane's. They were still fairly new in that market at that time, up in Rogers, Arkansas. Moved there. There was a managing partner from the one in Louisville, Texas. He was going up there, so I went up there with him. I was there.
What time is this, by the way? Like what time frame is this?
This is in, this would have been mid 2017.
Okay, all right. So they're not. You're not like with a franchise group, because I know Cane's was franchising at one point.
Yeah,
and
no,
Todd bought them all back.
This was all corporate, and I mean, I've seen, there's not a better corporation as far as how it's run than them. They're very, their NRO team has more people on it than most brands of 5 to 10 stores combined.
Their what team?
They're in our new restaurant opening team. I mean, they are very, very good. I did witness a new store open. There was one that opened down the road from us in Rogers. That's actually the store that my buddy had taken. That's why he moved up there, was to open that store. And when it finally opened, just seeing the operations of that and all the sales volume, you got to think this is back in 2017 when a 3-finger meal was $6.99. So to do those sales then was pretty incredible.
I'd love to talk about what you learned at Cane's and inside the 4 walls, because I think it's really interesting, especially given what you're doing now with the Coop. But let's talk about their new restaurant opening team. Like you said, they had more team members than entire restaurants just for the opening. So yeah, how did that work? Like what are the roles of the team?
I mean,
yeah,
you're hip to hip. One trainer will have just a couple crew members with it. I mean, when they hire the staff at the new store, they are going to hire 80 to 100 people. Obviously, there's not going to end up being 80 to 100 people down the road. They're going to weed themselves out. But as far as the NRO team, I mean, there's 30 plus people that were a part of that just for one store. And you got to think about now, they're at the rate they're going, they're opening an average of 2 stores a week. They're hitting 100 stores a year now. So, I mean, that's a lot of bodies. There's a lot of logistics involved in that.
Yeah, and aside from training crew members, it sounds like they have a very almost like sounds like 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of trainer to employee. But is there any other roles that they're filling that maybe you didn't see or that you don't see at other QSR concepts?
So they are very structured on the management level. You have obviously your shift managers. Then your operations manager is what it was called back then. I don't know if that's changed, but for another brand, it would be the assistant GM. Then you have your general manager, and then there are a few GMs that are fortunate enough to be in what at the time was their managing partner program. I think now they call them restaurant partners. And that's where their salary back then was, I believe it was $75,000 plus a bonus, and the bonus was 4% of EBITDA. So I mean, it's a good living for running just one store. It's almost outside of In-N-Out or something like that. It's you can't beat it. You can't beat it. And I will say it's old lady at Slim's would tell me this if I got worked up about something. And I still use it to this day. She'd say, "It ain't nothing but chicken." And you always have to think back on moments like that because it really is easy, and it is nothing but chicken.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what did you notice about the operations? Like once the restaurant was open, going from Slim's to Cane's, was there any big tweaks in how they ran the line? Compared to from brand to brand?
There is a little difference. Slim's has wraps and salads and wings and fried pickles, fried okra. They've got a way more extensive menu than Cane's. Cane's, I mean, it is just the easy. You're talking. You have a toast grill, you have the fryers, and you have the hot hold, and then you have the setup station. That's it. That's the kitchen. It is a straight line. All their kitchens are the same. I have seen a few years ago, I did see a video of a California store where it had, I believe it was 2 lines going. You can't run the volume they do there with just one cook line. So they do have concepts that have 2 cook lines, but they're the same. It's the exact same, just a straight shot. And they emphasize, they were really pushing it when I was there, the speed of service part. That was a huge part of it. I remember we had a contest for our area, or actually it was our RVP's area. So, he's in charge of probably 100 stores at the time. Going back real quick to the management layer, you had the shift managers, the OMs, the GM or restaurant partner. Above that, you had the area directors, and they would have anywhere from 3 to possibly probably 10 stores, and then above them you had the RVPs, and it was just a direct chain of command in that way. If you're a crew member, you may or may not ever see that RVP. They were going around to stores, but if you have 100 stores, it's hard to make them all in someone's time with that company. But they really had a push on the speed of service aspect, and there was a contest, and our store actually won that contest. And that's where I fell in love with the speed of service aspect.
Instead of opening your newest location next year, what if you could open it next quarter? Turns out you can, which is why franchise operators are turning to today's sponsor, CloudKitchens. CloudKitchens provides move-in ready restaurant real estate in high-demand delivery markets, enabling operators to launch new delivery-first locations in as little as 8 weeks for just the cost of the equipment. So rather than spend a year on construction, permitting, and build-outs, you can invest a fraction of the capital and get open in just a few months. And the results are telling. National brands like Chick-fil-A, Wingstop, Starbucks, Coop Kitchen are using CloudKitchens to expand faster. If you're thinking about where your next restaurant should be, request a tour via cloudkitchens.com. The link is in the show notes. Interesting. And what are the potential challenges in that? I mean, I gotta imagine order volume could maybe be the bigger challenge because you walked us through the kitchen setup. It seems it's dead simple. It's streamlined. I think everyone knows at this point Cane's is the most, probably them and In-N-Out, like the most dialed in menus of any concept. So yeah, what's the challenge there and
So,
faster as the cashier?
order volume actually makes it easier. When you're busy, that's when operations should run smoother. As long as everybody is trying, if it's a new restaurant opening, which I'm doing one next week with the Coop, we have our second store opening, and it's the place is going to burn to the ground. That's just what it is. I fully accept that. We're going to have fun. We'll work out any issues, but at Cane's, even at the new a new restaurant, there were hiccups. You had your 8-9 minute ticket averages, but once the team got completely dialed in, I mean, the volume doesn't matter. All you're doing is putting chicken in boxes. That's it. So when it's slower, that's when it may be cooked to order, or you may have a wait time because you're not going to serve them chicken that's been up for 20 minutes. That's not a quality product.
Yeah, and I mean, what's going on behind the scenes in the kitchen though? Like prepping the tenders, frying the tenders, the sauce, which is there's like a debate, right? Is that the only sauce in the menu? Because there's people who say you can get honey mustard too if you ask for it.
You have,
but yeah,
mustard.
what's going on?
You have honey mustard.
You can?
Not on the menu.
Yeah.
But they do offer it. The prep is pretty extensive for just being chicken. It's not a lot of items you're prepping, but you are prepping a lot of it. They marinate the chicken in the mornings. Usually your opening cook will come in. They'll be the ones marinating the chicken. They'll also make the batters for the day. And the batter, if I recall, was a dozen eggs and a gallon of milk. And you would make, back then we were making 5 or 6 of those for the day. So now I got to assume with their AUV and all, they're probably, the average store's probably having to make 9 or 10 of those each day. Sounds simple. It does take some time. You're whisking the eggs up, pouring the milk in, whisking that. And then the sauce is just being done throughout the day, all day. Especially with just having the one sauce. You already know every time a meal's ordered, there's probably a couple sauces going out.
And let's talk about the sauce, because I'm just fascinated by the lore around it. Do you know the recipe for it?
Not exactly, but I can tell you all the ingredients because we have a sauce that tastes just like it. So it's just mayonnaise, ketchup, garlic powder, Worcestershire, and pepper.
Okay.
If people want, I'll tell you what our Fox sauce, which is the same exact taste. We do 1 gallon mayo, 8 cups ketchup, 1 1/3 cup Worcestershire, half a cup of garlic powder, and half a cup of ground pepper.
I love it. All right, there it is. We have the recipe. Hell yeah. And it's funny, man. Yeah, people obsess over that. Like as far as the fans, I don't know if the operators listening to this will care that much. But what do you think though of just menu construction as it relates to other QSR brands? From having worked inside of a Cane's, and you talked about like, hey, there's not a lot of menu items, but there's still a lot of prep. Did you see the advantage firsthand? Because from the outside, it appears like, okay, they're only doing chicken tenders, but they're doing them better than anyone else. And that's why it can work. And so, like, you look at any tier 1 QSR. I mean, some of them do it well. Like McDonald's, to be fair, they sell a lot of coffee, they sell a lot of breakfast. Other brands don't necessarily do as well when they expand from what their core was. So yeah, I mean, do you think that the Cane's product is just that much better, and that's why they've been able to succeed?
So I'm not going to say the product's better because if you look at any post that Cane's makes online on Facebook or whatever, there's going to be comments that say bland chicken, no seasoning. Every post they make will have those comments, and it's the truth. But they were the first to really do it. You have the other brands that were there before them and all that. Nobody expanded like they did, so they were the first to do it as far as the public's concerned. And when you have that advantage, you don't have to have the best product. They have amazing marketing. I don't think anybody has better marketing for just selling one product. It's insane. When whoever wins the national championship in football or whatever, the team's there the next day at the local Cane's.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, it's definitely not strictly a product advantage, especially if you want to go national in QSR. I mean marketing plays a massive role in it. But I guess as far as just like what benefits did you see, especially coming from Slim's, of a more narrow menu, right? Like, did you notice anything as an employee at that time? If you can go back to your mindset of like, oh, this actually helps us for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Just the ease of operations. I mean, it's like I said, at Slim's you have the wraps, the salads, the wings, all the different side items. I mean, they have like 7 different sides, So whereas at Cane's, you get fries. The question is, do you want to switch out the fries for toast? Now Cane's does have, in my opinion, they have the best toast of anybody, and it's not even close. That is the one thing that it is amazing to me, their toast, and it's a huge differentiator. These other brands, they just take Cane's, you have Lane's, Slim's, it's just a piece of bread that's buttered. I mean, the Coop, that's what we currently do, with garlic butter on it. Just a piece of plain Texas toast. I will say, last week I got a sample of the Cane's toast, a sample case sent to me, and to see, if we could make it work. And it actually went over real well. I handed it out to some customers, and the first thing that they said, "Oh, that's that Cane's toast." First words out of their mouth, "That's that Cane's toast." There's not a Cane's within 40 minutes of my location here in Ames. So I had the case, it's got 80 pieces in it. I put it on the menu. I called it Cane's toast. It's going to be on there one day. They're not going to sue over that. So, and it sold out in 2 hours. I mean, so that toast is pretty ridiculous. It's just, I don't know what the fluffiness of it, whatever it may be. It's just, it is a great product.
It is amazing. I lived in Austin, Texas for a year, and when I saw Texas toast in the menu, I was like, my perception growing up in the Northeast of Texas toast was not that product. And
correct.
Yeah, it's the whole meal is frankly pretty addictive, which is what Todd Graves always preaches, right? If you want to get into QSR, you got to have craveability of your core product. So, anything culturally that you took away from there that you think they're doing well, or does that not play a big role in your mind?
I think back then I wasn't. I will say, I mean, from what I recall, this may sound bad, but it's the word I'm going to use. It was almost cult-like, So it's they indoctrinate the story. And everybody, everyone knows going in and out of Cane's the same story that you hear in articles or the history lesson of Cane's and all. How it came about. That's up for obvious debate. But I think their structure is what helps the culture. The management levels that they have, and you're going to have some bad run Cane's. I've seen them. That's any brand. It's not entirely perfect across the board, but I would say 90% of their locations are probably the best run operations in QSR period.
Yeah, I mean their AUV is pretty insane. It's about 6.3 million today. But am I right in that in our conversation prior to this, you mentioned you think California skews that number pretty high?
Now California may alter that number for a lot of brands, obviously, but you look at Culver's. I don't know if Culver's is in California or not, but they do have over 10% of their stores are in California. And the AUV of California, I mean, I've seen some canes there that do 12 or 13 million, so their AUV in that state is ridiculous. You couldn't pay me to go to that state to run a store, but or to go to that market. But I mean, they have over 100 locations there. They're still expanding very rapidly there. So that's obviously going to help their AUV. If you remove California, they're probably a $5 million. Not that there's anything wrong with it. All brands, all brands other than I guess one would kill to have that number. So. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is something you do have to consider when you're looking at that, because you see an AUV, you see that number, and then you take we'll use Lanes as an example. Their AUV is 2.1 million or so. They don't have any stores in California, so it is something to always look at. Is where are those numbers coming from?
Yeah. Speaking of Lanes, I know after a few years at Canes, I think you get recruited to Lanes. Can you talk us through that brand switch and who you were working with when you switched and why it happened?
Yep. So whenever I left Canes, they passed me up on a promotion, and it was all but guaranteed that I was getting it. That just left a bad taste in my mouth. So I left Canes. Again, I was in Northwest Arkansas. Looked at doing something there. Actually, briefly looked at possibly franchising Freddy's or something, and then I moved back to Dallas, where I'm from, and I had a buddy that was a manager at Canes when I was at the one in Louisville, and he was posting online. He was working at a place called Lanes. I was like, what the hell is this? It's chicken fingers. It's called Lanes. I'm like, that's a fucking ripoff. So it's like the Wish brand or something. I didn't know, but I did. With what they were paying shift managers, I'm like, oh my god, they are nuts. This is back when a shift manager at Canes was making $12.50, $13 an hour. And they were paying their shift managers $18 an hour. I was like, they're insane. So I went and applied. Just as a shift manager. That was the only opening. Whenever I applied, I was interviewed by the guy that they had running the company. Andrew Sidebottom was his name, British guy. He came from fine dining, like Wolfgang Puck. So I don't know how you go from Wolfgang Puck to chicken fingers, and you actually don't, because they were not run well at all. When I did the interview, I asked, what their speed of service was. Well, we're currently running, about 11 minutes, something along those lines. I'm like, how are you even in business?
Can you compare that? What was it out of Canes?
So the average at Canes is probably at that time about 3:15 to 3:30. Our store was running about 2:30. And that's from hello to pulling your car out of with your food in your car. We were running about 2:30. I'd say the system average was 3:30. That was their gold mark back then. So, and I would assume that number has not really changed. So the speed of service was bad. Their labor was bad. They were running 40% labor. All in. COGS were. It was a roller coaster. 1 week you're 20%, the next week you're 40%. So, obviously our 365 wasn't set up properly there. It was just, it was a shit show is the only word I could use for it. But I took, then he called me. I went back to Arkansas after the interview. Called me about 3 days later. Said, well, we really don't need a shift manager at this time, but, we'd like to hire you as we need a daytime crew member. I'm like, God. So, I'd take it for $11 an hour. Only with the thought of, I was like, I'll probably be a GM here within 6 months, because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And fast forward 6 months, I was GM of that location. Rose up through that, ended up being their director of operations. We really turned it around, made it a franchisable brand, taking just the knowledge that I knew operationally from the prior experience with Cane's, and implementing a lot of those things to make it a franchisable brand.
Yeah, and I think it would be good to set the table there. How many locations did they have again when you joined? Because I mean, if we're looking at Lanes today, I mean, in the
Yes,
last
the
month
Lanes
and a half,
today
they
is not the Lanes of 2019. I can assure you that. They have. Whenever I joined, there were the original 3 in College Station. Those had nothing to do with the 3 that were open in the DFW area. Those were still owned by Mike Garrett. Completely different stores from the 3 that were in DFW. So they only had 6 locations total, and that's with the original 3.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, a month and a half ago, I think they signed a 44-unit development agreement, and I think they have around 50 locations open. My numbers might be a little off there.
Yeah,
generally speaking,
you're within a couple of that number. Yeah, it's. I still follow them. I wish nothing but the best for that brand. I love the brand, and it's. They do have somewhere around 50 and probably another 300 plus sold. The 44 unit deal you talk about actually is why I'm sitting here in the shirt that I'm wearing right now. That guy, he signed for Lubbock and West Texas, a huge agreement. When I left Lane's corporate as the director of operations, I took a job with a Lane's franchisee in the Pittsburgh market, and as his director of operations, and under the assumption that we're going to really grow this thing, and I wanted to hit the Ohio market. Cane's do very well in Ohio. There's numerous Cane's that do over $7 million in that state, and that was at a low price point too. It's one of the lowest price points in the country, so that is some serious volume. So I knew it was a good market, and Pittsburgh is just an hour from Ohio, so we were hoping to expand there. I did get a lease negotiated. That store is about to open, but I mean, I learned the importance of cash flow from this franchisee. So, and when you have no money, it makes it hard to grow as fast as you want. So, I started looking at franchising myself, and kind of had a handshake agreement, we'll say, with if I could find someone that'll give me a lease, we'll do it. I found that in Lubbock, Texas. Was basically at the signing table, and that's when they had the deal for the 44 units, and started looking at Oklahoma, and other places. And then finally, one day I just woke up. I said, "Screw this! I'm starting my own brand," and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to get into the Coop and kind of how you put that together. Before we do that, can you walk through Lanes operationally? Right, how does it differ from Cane's? Because I know we were joking somewhat about it's like the Make-A-Wish version of Cane's, but it is different. They have it's not just chicken tenders and sauce and one sauce. I think they have more sauces, maybe a little bit of a different menu, and I think they're going into different formats too. Whereas Cane's is mainly standalone. Lane's, I think, goes into some strip malls.
They do go. They do have some inline locations. Cane's does as well, though. By the way.
Okay.
The college, they do have inline locations in college towns. The Lanes that open in Pittsburgh actually is on the same block, just on the other side of the block of a Cane's. They're both inline locations. That Lanes is doing about 1.3 or so. I mean, it's just been poorly run, but the Cane's is doing a little over $3 million there. Operationally, it's still just chicken, but you do have all the different sauces. Lanes has the ranch, barbecue, honey mustard, jalapeno ranch, gravy. So they have different options, which Cane's will never. As long as Todd Graves is there, they're never gonna do that. Lane's biggest differentiator, and I think is a huge advantage for them, is the spicy chicken. They don't do it like Dave's or these other people that just coat they coat the finger in something that's spicy. Lanes, it's in the breading, and that's the right way to do it. All these other places, they coat it or they put a powder on it or whatever it may be. But Lanes, it's in the breading. And I mean, that is a huge differentiator. I mean, it is massive. We talked about it before, you and I, but I think that if Cane's were to add spicy, I think it would break the internet. That would be the biggest thing to happen, ever in food, in my opinion. It'd make the McRib come back look like nothing. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I've heard Todd Graves on podcasts talk about, I think someone asked, why don't you have a bigger menu? And he goes through like, well, that's going to increase time customers think about what to order. Which is going to slow down my service. And he's obviously just so laser focused. So I doubt it would happen. But yeah, I mean, even if it was a limited time offer, I mean, I got to imagine that like single month would just be gangbusters.
Oh,
if they did that.
Yeah. It would be, that would be ridiculous. I mean, it's not going to happen under Graves. If who is it, BlackRock, or if whoever ends up buying them down the road, then probably the next day they're all going to have ranch and spicy fingers, and you may even be able to get legs and thighs in a month or so. So we know what's likely going to happen if PE gets involved. So.
Well, see, you've worked under both now, right? And even the Coop, I know, has more sauces than one. But just from working in Lanes and then in Cane's, what did you see that was different, either good or bad, about more sauces, right? The spicy tender with your standard chicken tender, right? Like, what does that do to the prep? What does that do to being trained? Is it much more extensive or not as big a deal as maybe one would think?
It is more extensive because obviously the prep is, because you're dealing with 7 different sauces or whatever it is now. You have the shakes and all as well. Whereas with Cane's, it's just, we're prepping a lot of cane sauce. That's it. There is no option. Operationally, it goes to your point that you mentioned. The customers will take time to decide, especially a first-time customer, what sauce do I want? They may take 20, 30 seconds on that alone. Then, do they want to try the spicy? Or, if they get a 5-finger meal, can I make one of those fingers spicy so I can try it? Just all the simple, small things like that really add to the time, so it does slow down your speed of service. More so with new customers, though. Once they've been there several times, they know what they're getting. They're going to pretty much order the same thing every time.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating hearing. Like, those are the things I think maybe your more novice operator wouldn't think through. That, like, just the what optionality, I guess, can do. I wasn't honestly thinking through, like, they're going to try to start customizing orders because you have the option for 2 different tenders.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about. So you told us why Lanes didn't necessarily work out from a franchisee perspective. What was step 1 for you when you decided that's it? Like, I already know how to do this. I've worked in the best of the best in the chicken tender business. Let me just open my own brand. Is step 1 finding an operating partner? Is it I need capital to even afford the build or the lease? How did this journey start?
So I had a partner, or have. He is still with me, Henry Panamino. He was probably my 4th or 5th hire at Lanes in Allen back in 2019. He rose up to become that store's GM, and he went to Pittsburgh with me when I went to that franchisee, and so he moved up there with me. It didn't work out. I catch hell for that. About 2 or 3 times a week, probably. About I spent 1.5 years of my life in this shithole, blah blah blah. So I just the thing is, for him, he's still young. He didn't see, but I say it all the time. I'm like, had we not done that, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. So, like I said, it was bad, but I know more about cash flow than any person on planet Earth. I can assure you after that time up there. But the first step, and as far as capital goes, we have backers. I'm fortunate with connections that I've made through the years. People that I know that do believe in me. If I say this is something we probably should do, then they're all for it. We've got some very good backers. The first step was finding the location. That was the most important thing. To me, that's the hardest part of this. The operation side is easy. To me, it's just it's secondhand now. But the location is the most important, and we didn't know at the time if we were going to try to build a brand or just wanted to open one or two stores. We didn't know what we wanted to do right then. We just knew we were going to do our own thing. So I just started searching nationwide on real estate. I'm not married, no kids, nothing to tie me down. So it could have been prime property on the moon, and it wouldn't have mattered to me. So found the spot in Ames, right across from Iowa State University, and then did some research, and there's no chicken in the market. There's a Chick-fil-A on the main side of town, the main road. That's not really serving the college. The students can't walk to it. It's too far. So I actually drove up to it from Dallas. That's an 11-hour drive, by the way. And drove up from Dallas, looked at it, submitted an LOI the same day. And the next week, the landlord talked to me, because, we don't have the background really of owning stores. My credit's not the best. So he wanted to talk to me. I went over my resume with him. He was like, yeah, I'll take a chance with you. And so far, I think it's worked out very well, as we have, 2 more locations opening in the next 60 days. And I actually have 2 more agreed upon LOIs right now as well.
And are they all in Iowa?
So the 2 LOIs are in Iowa. The next 2 opening, one is in Hutchinson, Kansas, and the other is in Wichita, Kansas. Hutchinson will be opening either next week or the week after next.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about the expansion, because it's interesting the geographies you're picking. But was there any roadblocks to starting your own brand that you didn't anticipate, right? After, you got to Lanes and you had work to do on the ops, clearly. But the branding and whatnot was figured out. I assume the supply chain was... you did say the COGS were fluctuating wildly.
The supply chain was a disaster. Now, that was not me. That was a guy named Samir Wattar. I'm pretty sure you know him or have heard of him. But he is he is an expert with supply chain. And okay. That was completely him at Lanes. He does a very good job there. And I was fortunate enough to office next to him for 2.5 years. So I would say that was probably my biggest hurdle in doing my own brand, because I never dealt really with the supply chain. The only thing I knew was, I was like, well, I know what Lanes was paying for some of this stuff, so let's just see how far off we are from that, and that's kind of how I figured if I'm doing good or not.
Okay. No, it's if I think of you as a founder, it's like, you said you had capital partners, and if you say, oh, I want to do a burger concept, it's like, oh, well, all right, that's new for you. But you've worked in Cane's, you've worked in Lanes, so it's such a natural progression for you for what you're doing with the Coop. Can you walk us through the menu at the Coop and why it is what it is? Because it isn't Cane's, right? It's a little bit more expansive, and we have talked about there are some downsides to that. So I'd love to hear about why you structured it the way it's structured.
So we do offer just the 3, 4, 5. It is a very similar menu to Lanes. I will say the ingredients we use are where the difference is. Practically none of it is the same outside of the jalapeno ranch and the barbecue. No 2 things are the same. The breading's different. The spicy breading is completely different. I'm utilizing the one that Lanes used originally, and then they switched to, in my opinion, a slightly lesser product. I'm utilizing that first one. Now, it is expensive as hell, but it is a premium product. So, you have the shakes. I said you have the 3, 4, 5 finger mill. There is a grilled cheese, which, I mean, that's minute as far as the volume goes on it. But, if you have little kids, which for our first location, you really aren't going to sell a lot. But, when you get to the suburbs and open a freestanding drive-through, which is what we're targeting moving forward, that will be an item that makes a difference for the families that have toddlers and whatnot. I do use, instead of Coke, I actually just switched. Originally had Coke, I switched to Pepsi a couple weeks ago, and that was strictly a financial decision. Pepsi guy came in, and I told him from the word go, I was like, well, you're drawing dead on this. Coke is like, you no chance, but I'll hear you out. He came back, offered pretty good money up front, $3 a gallon back. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, God bless, $3 a gallon. That's $15 per bib back. So I went back to him. I said, I tell you what, you make it $4 a gallon, and I will personally put that Coke machine in the middle of the street. 2 days later, he came back, said, you got it at $4. I was like, can I get this at every location I do? Yeah. So
damn.
I was like, well, Coke, I'm fine with Pepsi. I'm good.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I actually like the flavor of Pepsi better.
That's the thing. I will say the one thing I love is the cherry Pepsi. But you also utilizing Pepsi, you can use Dr. Pepper then. But I know that's kind of an issue back and forth going recently.
Yes.
So you can use Dr. Pepper instead of having to use Pib. Taste is the same. We all know that, but it's just the brand though. But I mean that $4 back. It's immediately it's 1 point to the bottom line. Like who I don't know anybody that would say no to that. People don't go to a brand because they have Coke or they have Pep. Look at Taco Bell. Taco Bell's doing amazing. They serve Pepsi. So it's not, that's not as big of a. It took me a while to get over the mind block of it, because I was like, God, just Coke is the player. But it took all up until that $4 a gallon back, and I was like, okay, yep, Coke can get out.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, and especially Taco Bell. I mean, they do have that connection being spun out from PepsiCo decades ago. But yeah, I think the food is first and foremost, and as long as that's good, I don't think it's going to kill your restaurant if you don't have Coca-Cola by any means. So how long has this first location been open, the one on the college campus?
We opened just before this past Thanksgiving, so just over right at 6 months now. All
right, so we're half a year in, and I know it's about a 1,300 square foot location.
No. And 3,300. It is a
3,300.
It's way too big, but it was the only spot available. Back to the real estate side, what else I was looking for was an easy second gen conversion, and this had a beautiful long hood in the kitchen. So the back of house was set up perfectly. I mean, I'll be up front with you. It cost me $165,000 to open this store. And that's owning the equipment. That's all in. That's owning the equipment and everything. It's going to do 1.2 to 1.3 million the first year. It'll net 250-ish off that.
What's your rent on that
all
per
in,
square foot?
All in $75,000 a year, and that's where I could have the same sales and have a spot that's 1,300, 1,400 less square feet. And I'd be paying $20,000 or more a year less, but that's just the spot that was available. So.
I mean, you're making your money back in 1 year. I mean, most restaurateurs would kill for that.
Yes,
And was that in line with your projections, or was it a bit of a wild card? I mean, did you specifically? You seem to like the college town, if I'm gauging this correctly.
Yes, this I did. The first store you had to make sure. Again, we didn't know if we were going to do multiple stores or not when we did this. The first store, I just had to make sure we gave it the best chance. And, you could have gone and found a great location in, let's say Allen, Texas, freestanding drive-through, a place that Cane's would go. it may not work because no one knows the brand. You without the brand, that's the problem with it. And so I went to a college town where there was no chicken. It didn't matter what the hell the name of this place was. In my mind, I knew it was going to work. I just didn't know to what extent. So it really took the risk out of it, in my opinion. There wasn't a universe that this store was only going to do 700 grand or something like that. Now, I felt like the bottom number for it was 900 to a million. And I knew that the top number, I said it's probably 1.6, 1.7. The Freddy's right next door to me does 1.6. So, and the way we're tracing now comparatively to their sales, this is going to be a $1.2 to $1.3 million store.
How challenging is it really to found your own brand?
So, if you're just one of those franchisees that you're looking to do this, you're getting into it because it's just for an investment perspective, and you're going to hire someone, an operator and all that stuff. If it's that situation, and you try to go start your own brand, you are drawing stone dead. There is no way that it's going to, because you don't know the operation side. You don't know any of it. You may know the real estate side. But that's it. Having the operation side is obviously a massive advantage. And so not having to pay that 7-8 points, whatever it may be, on the royalties. I know the average is 5 and 2. I know that's what Lane's is. Not having to pay that 45 grand up front. If I did this store as a Lane's, it would have cost me probably $350 to open, probably about $350, and they'd be taking 7%. That makes it cost $350, and I probably profit $150 a year off of. That's pretty steep. But like I was saying, if you're the person that's just going to hire an operator and all that, you have to go with a franchise, and you have to find somebody, find the franchise that you feel is right. I can tell you, I'm not here to advertise for them, but Lane's is a very good. If you're wanting to franchise chicken, that's the brand to do, in my opinion. That's coming from somebody who's been on the corporate and the franchisee side of it. They are a very good brand. They have a great executive team, great training team, and all. They've really got everything buttoned up. So, on the franchise side, I don't think there's many better options out there in the chicken industry.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about just the chicken tender category as a whole. With there's Lane's, Cane's, as we've obviously covered, and then even you and Magoo's is another one that's kind of up and coming. But before we do that, let's talk about the rest of your locations. I know I think they're a drive-through, both of them, right? The Kansas ones that are coming up this year.
Yep.
How did you arrive at Kansas, and what are the distance now that you're putting in stores?
So again, it was back to that nationwide search, So I say nationwide, but I wanted to stay fairly close. The first location is about 5 hours and 40 minutes from my current store. It's in Hutchinson, Kansas. It was a former Taco John's. 1,950 square feet, freestanding drive-through, Hutchinson, Kansas. Not a town that Cane's is probably ever going to go to. Population is 20 some odd thousand. Just doesn't have the population for them. Because if they go there, they're not going to do $5 million. They go there, they're probably going to do 3. And why open that when you could go open, in a million other places and do 5 or more? The Chick-fil-A there. Chick-fil-A's AUV, I believe, is 9 million now, 9.1, something like that. The Chick-fil-A there is around 6.5 million. So it just doesn't have the population to do 9 million. Obviously I'm not comparing myself to that, but it just lets you know, that it is a lower market, but there's no chicken fingers. There's a KFC there that it's terrible. The sales are terrible. The staff it's your typical what you hear about KFC. I always joke saying it's run like a South Dallas Popeyes. So that's it's one of those stores, and operations are bad. The reviews are bad. It's just awful. And I think this town, with giving our offering, we do have a great product. It's something that they can't get anywhere else in that town. I really think we're going to do well there. And the buzz around it so far, like I said earlier, I mean, I fully expect the store to burn to the ground when we open the doors. I think it's going to be crazy. I hate doing projections, on openings. I've been right on, I think, 1 out of 10 at Lanes. But my guess, I'm always like, if we do 40 or 50 grand, I'll be thrilled. Now I'm starting to think, I think we're going to do like 70 or 80, the opening week. And if it does that, I will not have any sleep.
Well, did you build this one from the ground up, or sorry, you said the Taco John's?
Yeah, I will not.
Yeah,
we won't do a ground up. I look at this. I'm a numbers guy. I'm the spreadsheet guy. All that. I just happen to also know how to drop chicken and all as well. And having both of those, it is a strong suit, I believe. And our total investment on this store is going to be about 180. That's owning the equipment. We're zero debt. We're never going to get in debt. We own everything. We're leasing the property. The lease is a good lease. Great landlord. He owns hundreds of properties across the country. And we, penciling it out, if the store does $1 million, we don't get hurt. So, you go to a franchise, a lot of times you need to do that 1.8 to $2 million for it to work in the QSR space. If any of these stores do $2 million, I'll tell you, I will be the happiest person in America. I won't be able to count the money that I make.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you've said nationwide, but you kind of have more maybe like a Midwest focus.
Now there is no more nationwide search. It is Kansas and Iowa. Possibly Missouri or Nebraska, but it is going to stay in the Midwest.
So if you would say that your criteria for location, then it's Midwest, it's in your zone. Let's call it like now your zone of competence. You're just your zone of influence where the brand is starting to build. And then second gen seems to be another key differentiator.
Yep.
Is there anything else? Because you got drive-through and inline. You're a little flexible there.
Yeah, you can, but the inline, you have to be at a college. I'll never do an inline just in some strip center in a suburb or something like that. You're not going to do anything. Like Dave's Hot Chicken. They go in some of those spots, inline spots, and they just crush it. But that's their marketing and all. But if I went in just a random inline that was in a suburb, I'd get killed. It wouldn't do $500,000 in sales. And that's the same thing for Lane's. That's the same thing for pretty much anybody. You have to have that drive-through. And it could be an end-cap drive-through. But I look primarily for second gens. I have looked at a couple new builds that need to be finished out. We're just not ready for that yet. I don't want to sink $600,000 into something yet. So for one store, the last thing is just, does it have a hood? That's not a deal breaker, but it's nice to save the 40, 50, 60,000 that, a hood cost, and the time. That's the other side of it, the time. Our third location in Wichita, it was a former Schlotzsky's. Now that one we're putting some money into. We're going to be into it for, probably $250, $275 when it's all said and done. But it's going to look sharp. And had to put a hood in, and when I negotiated with the landlord, it was there was no hood. I said, I want you to put the hood in, but I'll give you a $17,500 deposit, on the building, so that's going to cover half the cost of the hood for you, but I want you to deal with it. So that's how we structured that, so I didn't have to mess with it.
Oh, yeah. So when you're looking to open these, have you... And I say this understanding you don't have the financial resources of Raising Cane's, but have you taken anything from their new opening playbook for when you're opening these stores?
Not yet, no. It's just this first store. once we passed the health inspection, I said, "Fuck it, let's just open the doors and we'll see what happens." I mean, we had, you have me and Henry, and we had another guy involved. He just couldn't go with because we don't take. We're not really paying ourselves much right now. So, and I told him, I said, "Look, we're going to grow for the first year. Once we knew this worked, I was like, it's off to the races. We're going to grow, so we're not going to take, the fat salary. We're not paying ourselves $100,000 or anything like that. But so there was the third guy. We just opened the doors, and we did 3 days of training before that, just going through the motions, and all. But honestly, I mean, with just us three, if you have people that, if they could just wipe tables down or take an order or expo the food, just us three can run everything, no matter what the volume is. We do have, at this location, we have 3 kiosks. It's a college location. It's over 90% of in-store orders are done on those kiosks.
Wow, that's high.
That makes it a lot easier. And I can tell you, when I remodel this within the next year, there may not be a cash register because it's so high. I have thoughts about how to do this. But we'll see where everything goes. But I may remodel this, and it may just all be digital in kiosks. And I'll change the expo window, and I mean it'll trim labor drastically. That's not something you want to go forward with out in a suburb location. You got to have that customer interaction experience in locations like that. But in this college location, that's almost meaningless.
Do you have for that first location your speed of service at the moment? Like, do you know off the top of your head where you guys are at there?
Yeah, we are right at 4 minutes.
Okay.
And part of that is the chicken we use is bigger, so it can't cook in 4:30. The cook time on it is 5:15 to 5:30. So that does make a huge difference. Now, that's the average for the week. If you're in a rush, that food's going right out the window almost the second it comes in, because you're obviously just dropping. We've had just a couple instances, one of which we knew was going to happen. The other, I was completely floored by it. But we did do a $3 three-finger day a couple weeks after we opened, and we sold over 1,000 of them. I had to close because we ran out of chicken. So,
holy crap!
We closed 2.5 hours early. So it was it would have been a $10,000. It's a $10,000 gross sales day. So we also had who was it? Luke Combs. There was a Luke Combs concert here a few weeks ago, and after that concert, oh my God! I mean, it was nuts. We had 1 hour, and I didn't know that this store could do this. It was a $1,750 hour, and that's people. This store, again, not a drive-through, so it's an inline. That was burning to the ground. I mean, we handled it well, but I was not expecting it to do that. I was like, well, at least we know it can do it now. So game days in the fall, we're super excited about those because we'll get to see that this fall. We opened up just in time for, if I recall, we were open in time for the very last game for Iowa State, their last home football game. For anyone who listens to this that went to Iowa State or follows their team, do not blame me for why they fell off the wagon. But I will say, they were 5-0 before I moved up here, and when I moved here, they finished the season, I believe, 1-5 after that. And
oh boy,
the coach left. I mean, it's just the whole team's in shambles. So that's the Eliot
curse of the Coop.
Yeah,
the curse of the Coop,
just
man.
curse me. Don't.
That's funny, man. Do you have time here, or is this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, what does your day-to-day look like? You've got these stores that are 5 hours apart. Are you driving constantly? Like, what's a day in the life of being a co-founder of this restaurant concept?
So we've got the first store. We are going to leave it open. It'll just be reduced hours. But sales are going to go down 60%. We know that. I've seen it at lanes in Pittsburgh, lanes in Morgantown, all the college locations. So I have the data behind that. So we know it's going to be a lot slower. It's going to be you're not going to need a GM in charge for that. So that's going to give us the next 3 months to fully focus on getting these 2 stores open. And as I said, I have 2 agreed upon LOIs in Iowa on freestanding drive-through locations. So we are going to grow this. We have a GM for the Hutchinson store. I've got one in mind for the Wichita store. We're still working it out. But it is a lot of driving. I wear a lot of hats. So I mean, I've got at any given day, I probably talk with 15, 20 different people on the phone, whether it be, with the food service reps or brokers or, whoever it may be. I mean, it's just a constant, pull in every direction. But I like it. Again, I said earlier, I have no wife, I have no life, no kids, no nothing. So, I'm the right person for it.
Yeah, you're able to sink your teeth in and dedicate the time required. So it's a big aspect. When you look at this category, not to get philosophical, but why do you think chicken tenders? Like, why is there so much demand for it? Obviously, most people, probably everyone who's listening to this has had it at one point, like some form of chicken tenders, even the frozen Tyson strips that you can throw in an oven. I mean, but it's just crazy how just this one meal, like with Cane's specifically leading the charge with it, that it can lead to such high average unit volumes. And again, we've talked about lanes a lot. Obviously, you're off to the races. Huey Magoo's is a chicken finger only concept for the most part. Zaxby's sells a lot of chicken tenders. Obviously, like the big boys, McDonald's and like Wendy's came out with their tenders. Wingstop came out with tenders. Everyone's kind of diving in on it. Just what do you think it is about this single product that can generate so much revenue?
So chicken itself is probably the protein of choice for consumers. And decades ago it was the bone-in chicken, the KFC, it was all the bone-in chicken, and just that hasn't everyone's gone away from that. It's way easier to eat a chicken finger than it is a drum or a thigh. Nowhere near as messy, and you're able to just dip it in the sauce and you're good. And you don't even have to, I'll say Cane's, you have to dip it in the sauce for it to taste okay, but you don't always have to dip it in the sauce. So it's just way easier. You could grab one, eat it in your car while you're driving. I mean, I went last week when I was in Wichita, I went through the Raising Cane's drive-through, and while I was driving, ate my 3-finger meal. So it's whereas if you ordered a 2-piece leg and thigh, you can't eat that while driving. Good luck, or it's going to be messy as hell if you do. So I really think it's just chicken has really been the protein of choice, and I just think the chicken tender is it's so easy to eat for the consumer that that's my guess is why.
Yeah, and I hear you. Like, it's super easy to eat. So there's like a big convenience factor, I guess, let's call it. But on the craveability, I mean, like maybe this would be a better question for I don't even know, like a food scientist or something. But there is just something about it that I feel like keeps people coming back. When you get it right? Like the dipping, and you have the sauce, you have the breading, you have the chicken, assuming it's somewhat like moist or juicy or whatever. Yeah, I mean, anything you've made 3 different chicken tenders that get sold quite a bit between your own concept and Lane's and Cane's. So yeah, I don't know, anything around that where it's like it's just different than, because I think a lot of people are just surprised that Cane's can do more revenue than most of these other concepts on a per location basis.
I don't. I honestly don't. The craveability side, I don't know the science behind it. I will say, and I've seen this at all 3, and I remember the names of these people. I've had one at Cane's, had one at Lane's, and I have one here at the Coop. Customers that come in 4 or more times a week, and it's just, I've seen it at all of them now. So, that's obviously a big part of their diet then. well, I'll use the word diet very loosely, but it's a big part of what they eat. So, but the craveability side, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I'm glad it's there, but that's I'm probably not the right person to ask that.
Yeah, sure, sure. Well, what's on the horizon for the Coop? Is it just let's just do more corporate owned stores? I mean, you've seen the franchising and the corporate route. So, do you have a preference? Do you think could this ever become a franchise, or are you not even thinking that far ahead?
At some point, it probably will. Not in the near term though. We're gonna get to. I'd like to get to about 10 corporate stores, and then we will reassess where we're at. I will say that if we franchised, it would be different if from the franchisee's perspective, in the fact that we're not going to be anal about every store has to look like this. I would rather them be able to get in and open a store for that same 180 that I'm opening a store at. That's just a much better deal for the franchisee. I mean, you'll have the brand standards, yes. You're going to have the general look, yes, but they don't all have to look. The lanes that are doing the new builds, they look fantastic. They look amazing. But I wouldn't sink $1.8 million into a new building. I could go open 10 of these for the same money. Who's going to make more?
Yeah.
That's the side that I really don't like on the franchise side. It's just the corporate, standards, how they do it. And some of these brands, Lanes is not one of them, but a lot of them, they profit off of the supply chain. They profit off of the signage package, the FF&E package, all that. I think that's shitty. That's not, but people know that going into it. So, it is what it is. But, if you're profiting off that stuff, I mean, it's already an uphill battle for the franchisee. You can't just keep punching them. So if we did franchise, we would never want to profit off supply chain or anything. It would be easy, but let's just say for the next 2 years, that's not in the, in our thoughts.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I mean, I think, 10 stores is a great goal. And if it keeps on going the way it's going, then you're going to be in a really good spot. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to see that kind of keep on rolling. And, yeah, man, this has been an awesome conversation. I think, I have a closing question that I ask every guest, which is, what person has played a big part in your success in life, but doesn't get enough credit? You can think on it too.
Let me. It would have to be 2 people. Is that okay?
Totally.
All right. I would say my partner Henry has to be one. He, to put up with my shit first off. So is anyone who knows me, I'm a very funny person, very laid back, but I can be an asshole. So to put up with it, he moved to Pittsburgh with me, followed me with this. I have told him, I said, look, I'm gonna make you a millionaire, but you just got, I promise you that's going to happen. The other one would be Samir Wattar at Lanes. He's their COO. He didn't get to see the changes in me at that time, but he really helped me. And Eliot, you shouldn't be explosive. You shouldn't. I back then especially, I had a very very loose trigger. If I got mad, it was just 0 to 60 immediately. I've really worked on that. But then just being next to him for 2.5 years, seeing the supply chain stuff, I learned, I don't think I've learned more from one single person than from him. And we argued. There were times we probably hated each other. But at the end of the day, we still had one common goal, and that was Lanes and the brand. And at the end of the day, that's all that mattered. So, yeah. And we did align on that.
Love it, man. No, it's awesome when someone invests in you like that. So, awesome, man. Well, this has been fun, and we'll keep the audience updated with your progress, and if you do end up franchising, maybe we'll have to have you back on the podcast one day.
Yep, no problem.